And do I pronounce it Ring Maya, or how do
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Okay. Good morning, very good morning, everyone, from the sunny city of Melbourne. Today, I have the greatest pleasure to introduce you to someone pretty special. His name is Ring Maya, and you can see him on the other screen. And Ring is a very interesting person, and he'll tell us all about it in a moment, but he's done quite a lot of work with the South Sudanese community. And what I was going to ask you, Ring, is do you consider firstly yourself a community leader? And if so, what makes a good community leader?
Well, Eva, thank you very much. The word community, it's quite an important word for myself, for me, and everybody else. Without the community, we wouldn't stand in moving the community and even structuring our life in the way that it should be. Since I came to this country as a minor myself, I've always been comforted and also been guided by the community. I came here as a minor myself. I didn't have any family. We were a very small community, but we were literally intact together. And I believe this is the strength that I see, it is an important of our existence as human. It's just to live in a community space, and also to collaborate and to work together. And in the middle of this COVID-19, this is strength of being able to work together in a very neat community. We have seen it. It is our strength, but most of our time, it's proven could be the source of also us having a struggle when it comes to the issue of social isolating and all that kind of stuff. So I do see myself as a community leader because I'm a people person. I love people. I love working closely to people, and I love helping people. And this is what I have been doing for the last 2.5 years in my community.
And I think that work is so important, and yet somewhat controversial in that, you know, to isolate yourself as a community leader, or to step up and say, listen, guys, you know, I'm going to lead you. Not everyone's going to come on that ride, because I guess like with any other community, there'll be tensions or leadership struggles. Tell us more about the community itself, though. Could you give us a bit more information about where the community originally came from, how you came to be in Australia, what languages you speak, a bit more about, you know, knowledge about your community?
Thank you very much, Eva. That's a wonderful question, and it's very important for all of us and for the mainstream Australia. We identify ourselves as Australian South Sudanese, and majority of us came here 15 years ago, the start of the increased numbers of the South Sudanese coming to Australia. South Sudan, it is it's a country that have gained its independence on the 9th of July, 2011. But formally, or prior to that, we were Sudanese. But the war have taken such a long time in Sudan, which have led to the secession of South Sudan itself. So the community that I lead now have gone through a very lengthy, very treacherous, very difficult journey. But we all found peace here in Australia, and we identify ourselves as Australian first, and then we are South Sudanese, and we love this place very well. And majority of women and young people and the entire community is working well, and they're integrating very well. Some of them, yes, we came from very diverse linguistically communities, but majority of us, they master English, and they are quick learners, and they have really integrated in the sense that every South Sudanese you come across, they will be able to speak to you in English, even though they might have not gone to schools. So that's the strength of the community. We also do appreciate this country, the Australian people. They're great people. They have welcomed us. They have given us the space. They have assured us we are part of this mainstream Australia. But nonetheless, we still have some struggles that we need to go through.
And I think that's true for any community. And I think we forget. So myself, you know, I came here 34 years ago as part of the Polish community, and there have been 2 different waves of immigrants. And I think the struggles and the challenges you speak of are similar for any community that arrives in Australia and tries to make it its brand new home. tell us what languages are spoken in South Sudan, because one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is communication with the South Sudanese community. It's a challenge. You did say that many people speak English, but I think it's, is it true that the literacy levels are quite low within the South Sudanese community?
Well, I will categorically say, Eva, that is a misconception that a lot of people, they tend to swindle around the media and make it as a big deal. To be honest with you, majority of our community members, they speak English very well, and the majority of us have gone to schools here, and even those who came as adults, they went back to schools. Look, you're asking about the question that the languages that people do speak back home. Look, we predominantly, as we all might know or might not know, Sudan was a predominantly Muslim country. Majority of people in the north, they do speak Arabic, but predominantly people in the south who happens to be Christians and traditional religious, they speak English, and they do have their own multi-dialects. So other multi-dialects that do exist in the south, where I come from, the country South Sudan today, majority of us, they do speak a very diverse ethnic languages. So you would have Kakwa, you would have Pujulu, you would have Dinka, you would have Nuer, and also you'd have Lua dialects, the widely spoken, and many other languages. Bear in mind that the country make up of 64 tribes or 64 ethnicities. So we are very diverse linguistically, but the languages that bring us together is the English and Arabic Juba. That's bring people together predominantly.
So if you could give service providers, governments, translation companies some tips about how to communicate with your community, and you're not the spokesperson, and it's not a one-size-fits-all solution, of course, but are there some things that we're doing wrong? If so, what are they, and how can we get better?
Well, Eva, that's a very good question. Look, the translations and people who work in the translation industry, they're doing a wonderful work. They get information out, they're quite accurate. But again, look, the platform in which all these information are displayed, and I've spoken about this vocally previously, the information, yes, the information might be translated accurately. They might be put at the social media or just sent through emails and things like that. But again, are you reaching out the audience? That's the question that I always ask. Yes, you can have a wonderful and brilliant translation, but are you reaching out the audience? And what we have found since the time this COVID-19 have broken out is the fact that people are very receptive when you engage them. I personally, I don't read my emails every day. And if I'm receiving more than 200 emails, I wouldn't be able to go through them one by one and read them. And if somebody have just put out a flyer, let us say in the shopping malls or something like that, how many times many people goes out in the shopping malls and see things being put up in a bulletin board, or even put out there in a community website. So we need to engage more people. Translation and interpreting services, they're doing a good work. And I know there's a lot of videos I've made, I've put out there, but again, we are not all that technologically savvy, particularly our elders in our community. Yes, they might speak English, they might speak other languages, they might read. But again, if you don't have an internet at home, that is an obstacle. If you don't have a computer, that's an obstacle. And this information, there's an overload of information being sent through all the time. So we might have a translation today, tomorrow we have a different one, or the circumstances have changes, all sort of these things. So we need to have another platform where we can engage people. If that's advice that I could give you at this point.
So I think what you just said is true for all of us, and that is we sometimes can be overwhelmed. So essentially, I think it's fair to say that everyone's trying to do the right thing, and everyone's trying to reach communities and communicate with them. But sometimes I find anyway, it's about ticking boxes rather than genuine interest in the community, genuine interest in communication with the community, and reaching out to them in a way that actually works rather than like I said, ticking boxes. But you are, and you mentioned COVID a couple of times, and I've been kind of stalking you on LinkedIn, so I know that you're out there working with the communities. Tell us a bit more about that. What's happening out there?
Well, Eva, thank you very much. Look, since the outbreak of the COVID-19, I never stopped. In fact, I've just been working all over Victoria. And I know this work, it is a humanitarian work. We need to remove any bureaucracy that existed or any political maneuvering or even just having this, council culture where actually, if you do see something happen, you can't speak. So my work is predominantly making awareness and knocking doors, like talking to people to get them out there to go for testing. The disease is real, and basically the way you would have that comfort and peace of mind is for you to get out there, get tested, get your results. And even if your results do come back positive, there's a better way of you managing your illness or the virus itself. And we might not have the medication now, but through you being aware, having proper information being delivered to you. And by the way, what I would like to stress too, I mean, the fight against the COVID-19 itself, there's another fight that we are fighting, which is misinformation. There's a lot of conspiracy theorists they're just spewing out or maybe putting out materials that is discouraging people to go for testing. So I've been working predominantly in the western suburb as well as the eastern suburb. And to be honest, engaging the community at the human level, this is what we all want at this moment, is to be able to engage with somebody, make them feel valued. A lot of people, they hear things, but only the impact that we can make to change people attitudes for them to go for testing, or even to calm them down psychologically. There's a lot of psychological pressure out there. Is when you talk to them, they don't feel lonely. They don't feel they're in this alone. They're not frightful anymore. The fear is genuine, is out there. So I've been doing this since March. And you might know recently on the lockdown in Flemington and North Melbourne, I've just been doing a lot of work until for the last 2 weeks as well.
And what drives Ring Maya? What makes you like this? What makes you want to get out there and spread the message and connect with the communities? Is it the way you were brought up? Is it something that you woke up one morning and said to yourself, right, I'm going to get out there and help people? What's in it for you? And I don't mean that in any way that's disparaging. I'm just really interested to know what drives community leaders to do what they do.
Look, this work is not an easy work. Most of the time, you need to have a driver, she said, what's really motivates you. I have gone through a lot myself as a child from where I came from. And I have seen how important it is stepping up to help your fellow human beings. That's the way I look at it. And I do really sympathize and empathize with a lot of people. My work hasn't just started, like, let us say, this year or the year before. I've engaged in a lot of stuff. If you might remember, the cyclone Yasi in Queensland, I was a part of that I was in my early 20s. And also, if you look, recently we have a bushfire that have really devastated the whole Australia. I was at the forefront also in working that is just working with our fellow human, with our fellow Australians and standing with them. So this thing isn't really new to me. Immediately, I have to act when this COVID-19 came up. And I know our communities are the most vulnerable. As I said earlier, we are very needed communities. We have seen this in North Melbourne and also in Flemington. Our needness of being able to work together, faith community being together, and all other communities being together is our strength. But also, it could be also our downfall in a sense that if anything happened, like the outbreak that have just taken place. And by the way, let me just thank the wonderful volunteers from all different walk of life, right? People who volunteer to come out and do the door knocking and put themselves out there, particularly the cult communities, the faith communities. They have done a wonderful work in North Melbourne and also in Flemington, and also other government department and agencies that have worked along, that have done a good work. But we were improving every day. There has been some downfalls, but we were improving every day. We were improving the situation until the whole situation was brought to rest, and people were assured that there's nothing is really happening. Considering the build-up, the police build-up was kind of a worry for a lot of people. So I'm a people person. I love people, and I like helping people. I like engaging with people, and this is the work that I would do for the rest of my life. If that's the way I categorize myself or looked at myself.
Tell me about your resilience. How do you protect yourself? Because what you're describing, I think, is pretty full on. It's you know, we keep talking about unprecedented and all, but it's true. You know, many of us have never been in a situation where you have to consider all the things that you just said. How do you protect yourself from you know, and you talked about mental health and how important it is to stay positive and to send a message of you know, progress and being in it together. But the resilience bit, the thick skin bit, because I'm sure that what you're talking about doesn't come with just good and positive vibes. What advice could you give to others who might be in your position where they are out there working with the community to keep themselves safe in terms of mental health?
Well, if I have to admit to you that the work that I do is quite daunting, it's hard, and it's just mentally depriving, and it's depriving me of everything, even friendship. What's really important here is self-awareness. You have to be able to sit back and reflect, and always make sure that you reach out for your loved one. Reach out for people that actually who would share what you go through and actually walking you through it. And we all need help. You need a space where you could fall back into and actually listen to people, to counsel you, to share with them the difficulties that you have faced. That I can tell you now, last 2 weeks I've just isolated myself because the work that I have done was quite daunting. Literally, I was engaged and face to face with people who were really infected by the COVID-19. And I've realized actually this is the breaking point. So I have to find the inner resilience. I have to look inside me and say, look, do you need help here? Well, what have you just experienced? And how would you help yourself so you continue helping other people? So I have a very close needed friends and people who work in the sector, and also people that I was working with, like the VMC chairperson. She's a wonderful person, Viv Nguyen, and she always check on me. She always check on people who are working as a part of the REC and also as a part of the VMC. And I have got good friends who work in DHS and also work in mental health area. They talk to me. And I realized there's a time you have to realize, look, this is too much. You just need to step back a little bit. And I believe after that, after being engaged in a close proximity to people who are really infected, I have to take a drastic decision that is a time for me now to take a rest. It's a time to isolate myself for 14 days because the exposure was just too much. So what's really important, you got to know that point, that moment where you feel like you can't do anymore. Or if you feel you ought to do more and you're not reflecting, you're not sitting back and revisit what you have just done. Where are the areas that need to be improved? I think you're overworking yourself. And at that moment, you need to take a break. It's very important for you to take a break.
Right, because you're describing there essentially burnout and just if you can't be useful to others by being burnt out, then there's no point of doing it. And you know, you do have to stop and look after yourself first, because it's a bit like you know, the oxygen mask on the plane.
Yes.
You have to be breathing and well to assist others. So it's a little bit like that. Ring, tell us about informal communication, because I think, you know, we've spoken a few sentences ago about things like social media and translations and all kinds of things. But I think now there's a lot of communication in the community, and not just, you know, in Australia, everywhere. Happens informally. And I think it's so fast-paced that it's really hard to keep up with everything that's coming at us. And you were talking earlier about this overwhelm and this, you know, just everything's too much. When we reach out to people on an informal level, that's a really good way of just checking in, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And look, what has worked for me, I can tell you that I'm just looking after the largest community here. Members of our association here is 4,000 individuals, and I have got their data. So for us to have an effective work, and by the way, young people and many people right now, they use social media very well, and also they used telecommunication networking. So what I do most of the time is I can reach out for those I couldn't reach out on social media. I do go live on social media, talk to people in language that they understand in a very simplified manner. But I do go beyond that, making sure that I'm calling the elders in the community, giving them a personal phone call, because I got their data, I got their phone numbers and things like that. Asking them whether they need food, whether they need their medication, whether they need all other services they needed it, let us say the laundry and other stuff, right? So that kind of communication is very important. And prior to that, before the lockdown, I had this work that I have scheduled where I actually have to go to people's houses and check on them, particularly the vulnerable people that who are sick, people that who couldn't get out there, people who couldn't understand what is happening around them. I used to go and see them, and I was working with other local government. I do some delivery, some food for them, because some of them, they were so stressed. We have got issues of unemployment, we have got income issues, we have got mental pressure, and alcohol and drugs and other things, and gambling and family violence. These things need a community engaged at a closer proximity, and perhaps a simple phone calls will make a huge difference in somebody else's life. And that's why I don't rely heavily on the information that are on. Yes, I can literally utilize the information that we put out there by the DHS and others, but I need to contact the community members. So I have to make sure that they understand and they're doing well and they're doing okay. So this kind of communication is happening, live videos. We can make contacts to call people. I can delegate some people to go and talk to other people who need to be talked to.
And I think it's that practical touch that you're talking about that makes all the difference. But of course, what I'm hearing from our interpreters, translators, community members is that this COVID has actually exposed systemic cracks in the system, because what you just described there existed before COVID happens, is there now, and will exist later on. So it is about how we have that honest conversation and see how we can support people on a practical level. And sometimes it is that phone call, sometimes it is the help with shopping, with food, with whatever it is, that gets people over the line and gives them hope, I guess is what you were describing there.
Yes, but the thing is this, now we pretty much in the middle of this COVID-19. We need to talk about real concerns that are concerning the community. One of them is just people, their income has been reduced substantially and the cost of a living have really increased. So also, if we do talk about the information that we give out, it's not only about going for testing, it's not only about talking about reducing the illness itself, or the issues that people are concerned of. There's some real issues, as I've just spoken to you earlier. They reduce income, they don't have the cost of living have increased substantially. They do have uncertainty and also fear for their future. Young people particularly, they don't know what's really happening with them, because most of their relationships have been broken down. And just you and I, and our teen life is the most important life ever. That's the time you discover yourself. That's the time you would excel in the schools. That's the time you find out who you are and what you really want to do. And a lot of it happened in close social contact sort of an environment, but that is not there. It has been ripped away from them. And a lot of
I think we just lost your sound. Yeah. I think we lost Ring for a minute. Oh, here we go.
Sorry,
go.
Sorry, Eva.
No, that's all good. Go for it.
Yeah, somebody have.
We lost you again.
So basically,
I think we have lost
the pressure of mental
Ring.
health is another issue that we need to talk about. Yes.
Yeah. No, we can hear you. Go
Can
for
you
it. Yeah, we can. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I'm really sorry.
No, that's all right.
Yeah, the pressure of mental health illness, I think it is something that is quite important that we need to bring into our discussion here, and relationship between people as well. We do have people who lives in isolations and disconnections. What can we do about these people? This is my next concern for the future now. And the pressure of technologies and also technological skills is a new skills that most of the communities have to learn, and people have to learn. You and I have to learn how to communicate like this, because this is the new norms now. We need to get used to it. So people that we are talking about now are the people that were literally excluded already. They were just at the back foot of everybody else. Our community, people talked about being the emerging community. I don't look at it as an emerging community, to be honest. We are still submerged because we are not in that level where we're considering that we are an emerging community. And the people, we do have a lot of young people who are eligible. They're not eligible for payment from Centrelink and all other places for many reasons. Some people have applied more than 100 times. So there's some real issues here we need to talk about. And also, as we dispense this information for young people to understand, and also this connection in the schools, these are the issues that requires all of us to get out there and talk to them. What are the avenues? What can we improve their lives? You know, so these are the things that is concerning me now, because that's the next level of us dealing with issues. We do have seniors in our communities, people who are like in their 60s and 70s. Their life, it is in limbo. We don't know what's the next things for them, and some of them are quite homeless at the moment in the middle of this COVID-19 era. So we do have some serious issues, some real issues that we need to discuss. But having said that too, there's many strengths and opportunities we can explore while we communicate as well.
Ring, we met, I think at the end of January, I want to say, because I attended a session on, like a cultural session about the community, and that was really great because we shared knowledge, we shared food, and you know, I then got to stalk you on LinkedIn and all kinds of things like that. But I think there's nothing better, and I know that you're somewhere in the western suburbs, and I'm in my office in St Kilda, and we're not able to share some things, but what we've been able to do this morning is hear from you with that realness that you have and that honesty that you know, we just need to preserve, because yes, we can paint a wonderful picture, but there are issues, there are challenges, and we can only overcome them as a community. And I think you've described all of that beautifully and gave us a really good picture of where the Australian South Sudanese community is at. We've got about 3 minutes for questions. Believe it or not, I told you before we got started that it's going to go very fast. Over to you, Andrea, if we have any questions. Otherwise, I have a couple.
Yeah, we do have a few questions for Ring. One of them is with a very good feedback. He's saying, great session, guys. And what has been your biggest challenge, Ring, as a community leader during this COVID-19 crisis?
Thank you very much for such questions. Look, we do have several difficulties that we have encountered as a community, and again, is how we can really get this information out there for the community, because what's really important now is the health of the community itself. You know, so I've given interviews in this area in a sense that. If there's any sort of assistance, and I know that the government is doing very well, then that assistance is given to the community. It requires grassroots leaders such as myself to be empowered in many different ways. The community work is a very arduous and is very tiring, but also is dangerous in the sense that basically if you're not trained well enough in this area, like let us say, for example, we do the door knocking. If you haven't been really trained well in this area to how you can maintain 1.5 distance or maybe 2 meters away from each other, you know, what are the information risk? Yes. What are the information can you put out there to people without you actually encroaching into their own privacy or you being considered as somebody, because there's a lot of information out there which doesn't really help at all. A lot of conspiracies, they're infiltrating, like the faith group, they're infiltrating women in our community, sort of this kind of a thing. And your authority literally will be questions as well. Like, how are you communicating with us? You're talking to, who are you? You know, who are you? All that stuff. And look, it has been quite difficult. I have worked with the DHS for such a long time, and I always encounter difficulties because I'm not looked at as a community leader. I'm looked at as somebody who's actually been employed by the government when actually I'm not employed. I'm just volunteering. I'm looked at as being the DHS officer. And I can give you very simple things. When I was working in 33 Alfred Street, the building that was locked down, a person came out to me, a wonderful young person, and he said, for the last 14 days, where have you been? You just come and check on us now? Wow. And literally, they weren't really happy. And I said, I'm not the DHS. I'm just accompanying them. But that question, it doesn't really exonerate me, the fact that I was a community leader accompanying the DHS and also accompanying the Victorian Police to do the compliance check. So these are the difficulties that we encounter. We encounter the difficulties of not being really empowered or being given the training that we ought to have. This is not a criticism. This is just the reality. We need to be trained well by the DHS, the VMC, the DPC, and others, right? And also, we should be able to work our way out and how we can engage our communities as well. And most of the time, our community are great. They're doing great work, but we do have some obstacles that we need to be mindful of, and we need to be prepared so we can encounter them. These are the difficulties that I have faced working in this environment.
And I think one of the challenges is that the expectations are very high.
Correct.
So you're putting yourself out there in your own time and potentially exposing yourself to risk, and yet getting, sometimes criticism or the expectation that it's so much higher than what you can achieve. Andrea, what other questions do we have?
Yes, so we would like to know what can be done, Ring, to support the South Sudanese community in Australia. So if someone wants to reach out to you just to collaborate with the community, how they can reach out. So basically, that's the question.
Okay. Thank you very much. Look, I'm all over the place, and Eva, she said it right. I'm on LinkedIn, and also at the request, I'm more than happy to give out information about our association, about our community, and we are so open to collaborating. And when Eva came to that multicultural session was done on the South Sudanese, literally the numbers of people who turned up in those sessions tells you that we are here to collaborate and also networking with others, because in the end we are all in this as one people, as Australians, as Victorians. And look, the community is the most important thing at the moment. We need to go back to strengthen our communities, working together, and also be innovative in how we tackle these issues that we are confronted with, whether it is the issues to do with the COVID-19, or issues to do with family violence, with the issue to do with homelessness and not having, or even the employment. It's good for us to network and to collaborate together so we can have a tangible solution that will be able to help my community, other communities, the Victorians and other Australians.
Ring, there's nothing better and nothing more I can say. That was an amazing summary of and a message that everybody should take away from this chat this morning. I think you're a very articulate and very kind person, and we are very grateful that you've been able to spend this time with us. And I know that you're also very generous, so if anyone has questions, I'm sure that they can find you and reach out to you. But I personally really appreciate your time and the way that you put everything in a very positive context, because you're right, you can get down with all the bad news and everything that's happening out there, but instead what we should work on, and this is what you're advocating, is working together and learning about each other and just doing the right thing by each other. I think that's the very basic human connection that we should develop, and then things are easier, right? When we talk to you, we see a person, not a community, and not a group, and not emerging community or whatever. People like to put labels on people, but we're just humans. And with that, I wanted to thank you, Ring, once again, sincerely for your time this morning. Thank you, Andrea, and thank you everybody that's attended. This will be available on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, all over the place. So please listen to Ring's words, because they were very measured, very eloquent, and very positive. So for that, I thank you. And over to you, Ring, just to say goodbye to everyone, I think.
Look, Eva, thank you very, very much for, again, giving me this platform to be able to talk to you and to talk to your audience, to talk to the Australian, to talk to the South Sudanese community, and all other cult communities, and all other cult communities, and mainstream Australia. Look, we are all in this together. In the end, we are all in this together. And when it comes to health, we shouldn't play around. We should not politicize it. We should not play using this bureaucratic maneuvering and things like that. We all need to work together so we can eradicate this illness and actually preventing the spread. And my last advice to all of us here is to go back to our community, wherever we come from, and let us encourage social distancing. Let us encourage right hygienic practices, so we can literally eradicate this illness for all and for good. And thank you very much, Eva, for inviting me.
Of course. And on that note, thanks everyone, and we'll see you next week at the same time. Thank you, Ring. Really appreciate it.
Bye.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.